Dawn breaks over a frostbitten plain. Your mammoth-hide cloak is frozen into a shape that suggests you lost a fight with a snowbank. Your nose has icicles, your toes have achieved full betrayal. And you're crouched behind a rock, trying to remember what warmth felt like before the Ice Age turned your backside into a prehistoric popsicle. Let's get something straight. Early humans didn't have thermostats, no heated floors, no fleece socks, not even a tragically overpriced hot chocolate from a local cave-barista. They had cold, and each other, and the occasional mammoth carcass to huddle inside of like a sad organic sleeping bag. So how did cavemen survive without heating? Let's go back, way back. The cold was constant. If you were a caveman, you woke up cold, went to sleep cold, and spent your days chasing things in the cold just to eat them before you froze and starved. It was like living inside a never-ending freezer commercial, except there were no fun jingles, and you were the snack. Every breath you took came out in a dramatic puff, like you were auditioning for a role as person about to die of exposure. We're talking snow, wind, constant frost. Your eyebrows grew icicles. Your toes lost feeling around midday and didn't check back in until spring. Even your beats froze solid. And yes, even the beats betrayed you. You tried gnawing on one once. It shattered like a rock and chipped your tooth. It tasted like failure. There were no coats, just furs, thick, lumpy, questionably stitched together from whatever didn't bite back or die dramatically. Did they smell? Absolutely, horrifically, like wet mammoth and regret, but they kept you alive, kind of. It wasn't wearable warmth, it was more like portable damp smell blanket with possible fleas. And you wore all of it, every day. No outfit changes, no laundry, you just kept layering until you resembled a walking meatball of hide and mud. You weren't fashionable, you were technically insulated. Survival didn't care if you looked cute. It just hoped you didn't freeze solid before breakfast. Snuggle or die. The first line of defense against the cold? People. Big, warm, snoring people. The tribe didn't sleep spread out like a magazine ad for cave furniture. You slept in a pile, a full-on prehistoric cuddle puddle. Arms here, legs there, someone's foot in your armpit, a toddler using your head as a pillow. One guy always insisted on sleeping like a starfish and somehow claimed the entire center. No one liked him. Everyone needed him. Why? Because heat. Because if you didn't, your ears might snap off in your sleep like frozen mushrooms. Body warmth was currency, a communal survival strategy. You didn't care who drooled, who twitched, or who muttered strange things about mammoths in their sleep. If they radiated heat, they were family. Did it smell like a goat convention? Yes. Did someone always fart in the middle of the night and cause a small panic? Also yes. But you didn't complain. You grunted, rolled closer, and prayed your neighbor's beard didn't freeze to your eyebrow again. You tolerated snoring that shook cave dust loose. You accepted that someone would wake up with a nose full of someone else's hair. Because when the air outside wanted to kill you, inside the cuddle pile was the warmest place on earth. Or at least, the least deadly. Wind was the real enemy. The cold just hurt, but wind mocked you. It didn't nibble, it snapped. It snuck through every fur gap, made your eyes leak, and stole your fire smoke just to be petty. So you adapted, not elegantly, desperately. You stacked rocks, you leaned logs, you built walls so crooked they looked like they'd lost an argument. You didn't care. You just needed something, anything, to block the breeze from trying to rearrange your skeleton. You lived in caves not because they were stylish, but because they didn't come with a side of emotional frostbite. And when the wind roared like an angry goose god, you didn't hide. You stood shoulder to shoulder and shouted back. Unified cursing became its own kind of shelter. You couldn't stop the wind, but at least it knew you hated it. Movement was warmth. You didn't sit still. You couldn't. Sitting still was how your butt froze off and became a cautionary tale. No one wanted to be remembered as the one with icicle cheeks. So you kept moving, constantly. You danced badly, but enthusiastically. You chased things, sometimes prey, sometimes your own regrets. You argued with flair, pacing in furious circles like you'd misplaced your mammoth keys and your dignity. Even storytelling became a full-body sport. Every tale came with dramatic hand waves, tribal jazz hands, and spontaneous interpretive flailing, half for emphasis, half so your toes wouldn't die. Strengthening was survival. Chores were cardio. Wrestling your cousin over a fermented berry, that was CrossFit with feelings. And if you stayed active enough long enough, you almost forgot your nose was turning into a small frozen potato. The strategic body fat. Let's talk body fat. Today we frown at it, shame it, try to sculpt it into invisible abs. But back in the Paleolithic era, fat was glorious. Fat was power. Fat was your winter insurance policy. In a world where ice came uninvited and calories played hard to get, the fluffier you were, the longer you lived. That guy with the double chin, absolute legend. The tribe didn't mock him. They followed him around like he was a walking emergency ration with good advice. You needed fat. You earned fat. You bragged about it. Check out my elbow roll wasn't an insult. It was a pickup line. Fat meant insulation. It meant stored energy. It meant your body wouldn't immediately scream and shut down the moment the wind so much as sneezed. In fact, one of the highest compliments in your tribe was, "Nice blubber layer, bro. You look almost seal-like." And seal-like? That was the pinnacle of health, survival, and prehistoric sensuality. Seal-like was sexy. Ice baths? No thanks. You didn't bathe in winter. You weren't trying to die clean. Rivers were avoided like they'd insulted your mother. Bathing? That was a summer hobby, right up there with berry picking and not freezing to death. Come winter, you stayed dirty. Not because you loved the smell, but because being wet meant being dead. Wet hair turned to icicles. Wet feet meant toe funerals. A full-body dip, that was a bold, reckless choice made only by people who'd given up or lost a bet. If you had to clean yourself, say, because you were covered in mammoth guts or love happened, you grabbed a handful of snow, rubbed it under your arms, and hoped your personality was strong enough to distract from the scent of week-old goat sweat. Did it work? Not even close. You still smelled like sorrow, but you tried. And in the Paleolithic world, effort counted for a lot, especially if you didn't freeze your nipples off in the process. The foods that warmed the soul. Food wasn't for pleasure, it was for survival, sanity, and tricking your body into thinking it still wanted to live. You didn't eat because it was delicious. You ate because you were one cold root away from crying in a snowbank and joining your ancestors. Soup? That was a fantasy. A myth whispered by elders with too much optimism. If you managed to boil anything, roots, bones, that one mushroom nobody trusted, it was a miracle. You'd huddle around the bowl like it was sacred, sip the vaguely warm sadness, and pretend it tasted like mammoth stew. Mostly, meals were chunks of meat so cold they had personalities. Elk fat that shattered like sadness. Tubers with the texture of frozen regret. You chewed fast, not because it helped, but because slow chewing gave your teeth time to file a complaint. And when things got really bleak, you'd just stare at a hot rock, if you could find one, and genuinely wonder what it might feel like to press your face against it. You knew it'd burn. You didn't care. At least it would be warm. Fur babies were not just for cuteness. Dogs weren't just pets. They were survival equipment with noses. You didn't adopt a wolf-dog hybrid because you were lonely. You adopted one because your toes were threatening to mutiny from frostbite. A furry beast curled around your legs was the Paleolithic version of a space heater. You let them drool on your feet. You let them snore directly into your ear canal. You forgave them when they farted so loud the fire flickered. Why? Because they were warm, loyal, and slightly less judgy than the humans. You whispered sweet nothings to them at night, like, "Good dog, please don't steal my only dry sock again." They stole it anyway. You woke up cold and betrayed, but also loved, and slightly less frozen. Because in a world of snow, predators, and unwashed uncles named Grog, your fur baby wasn't just cute. They were life support with bad breath. When in doubt, panic cuddle. Sometimes, the cold got so bad it bypassed logic and went straight to primal instincts. There was no strategy left, no cleverness, just communal chaos and urgent body heat. You panic cuddled. No one made eye contact. No one judged. You just formed a human pile like cold, confused puppies, grunting, shivering, occasionally whimpering into each other's cloaks. Mock always initiated the hug. Mock didn't ask. Mock simply attached. Nib flapped his arms wildly, claiming he was summoning internal fire, but mostly looked like a goose having a breakdown. Grilda hummed what might have been a song or a warning or an attempt to vibrate herself warm. You looked absurd. You smelled worse. One guy accidentally warmed his feet on someone's face and was too afraid to apologize, but no one complained. Because somehow, in that shivering heap of desperation, you made it through the night. And that, in caveman terms, was love. We, the spoiled descendants of those frostbitten champions, now start whining when the thermostat dips below 68. We scream, "I'm freezing," while wearing socks, hoodies, and holding a pumpkin spice latte. We panic buy electric blankets. We debate which brand of heated slippers makes us feel most emotionally supported. We forget that warmth used to be earned, not with buttons or apps, but with sheer, desperate will and a suspiciously flammable beat. Once upon a time, heat wasn't a setting, it was a battle. You didn't get cozy, you fought for cozy, with rocks and panic, and at least one dog under your armpit. So the next time you shiver a little and dramatically declare winter has come, remember this. Your ancestors wore soggy mammoth skins. They snuggled next to people who hadn't bathed since mammoths were a thing. They considered not dying overnight a glowing Yelp review for a shelter. And they made it. So can you. Probably. Just don't lick a hot rock. Trust us. Some lessons don't need repeating. If your clothes smell worse than your dog, you're probably doing it right. If your feet are warm, it means someone else's feet are definitely freezing and silently plotting revenge. And if a woolly creature looks at you funny, it's either impressed by your questionable layering techniques or seriously considering stealing your cloak and becoming you. Identity theft was real, even in the Paleolithic. You had to stay moving. Stay snuggled. Stay ridiculous. Whether you were stomping in place to keep blood in your toes or locking arms with 12 other half-asleep tribe members in a prehistoric huddle chain, the rule was the same: warmth over dignity. All because surviving the cold didn't mean being comfortable. It meant being clever, communal, and just a little unhinged. The kind of unhinged that leads to fur fashion experiments, aggressive chanting at firewood, and assigning names to your frostbitten fingers so you could say goodbye properly when they fell off. And that, my frozen friend, is how cavemen did it. No thermostats, no fleece hoodies, just grit, group heat, and an extremely tolerant attitude toward body odor.